Thank you so much for being here, Gabe.
Of course.
Typically, we start these podcast episodes with just like a little bit of origin story.
Sure.
So I know that you're from Detroit, went
Yes.
to Emerson.
Yes.
And then how soon after graduation did you start working professionally?
Yeah, I booked my first big commercial job and my first little movie role in like the same, this has never happened since, but in the same week at my like last month of college. So they were like shooting a film. It was like called Tumbledown. It had Jason Sudeikis in it and Rebecca Hall and all these people. And I had like 5 lines in it and it was like so incredible. I booked that and a Subway ad in the same week. So I was like, oh, I'm moving to LA, baby. Because I majored in theater. So I was like, I'm going to be a theater kid. And then I booked those 2 jobs and I was like, screw that. I'm going to LA.
You got that Subway
Yeah,
money.
I said, hello? Excuse me? I'm a sandwich artist. I made like 30 grand off that thing because it was during FIFA. So it ran every day. They showed it 500 times. And I've been in commercials since and have never come close to that number. So it was like this, of course, you're like 21 and you're like, this is all as easy as I thought it was. Incredible. It's all up from here.
Yeah.
So that was what brought me to LA, was a little taste of professional work. Moved out to LA, was in LA in 2014 for a few, like 9 months until I got the Book of Mormon job. So I did the Book of Mormon for 3 years after that. I toured for a year, Broadwayed for a year, toured for a year again. And then after that, have been fullish time-ish in LA since then. That's the like quick sort of right away out of college.
Yeah, I love it. So when you were doing Book of Mormon for 3 years, what made you decide to come back to LA?
That Subway money. I got one little taste.
The allure.
I got one little taste. Yeah. The commercial, the reason they showed it so much, I'm just remembering this now, was it was FIFA. And it was also, do you remember when they found that they had the same like material as yoga mats in the bread? Do you remember this? It was like 2013, 2014, like this big scandal.
No.
That like Subway was like whatever they were using to like make the bread rise quicker or whatever was like the same thing that's in yoga mats. So they had a bunch of trouble. Anyway, I was part of the commercial that was like, we have new bread. They were like, we fixed it. Anyway, so I came out and did that. What brought me back to LA was I wasn't officially engaged, but was about to be engaged to my now wife, who was here in LA and had work in LA and is not an actress. So her work is more consistent than mine.
So you just finished 3 years of like solid employment. I did a tour for a year before I moved to LA.
You did?
Yeah, and it wasn't Broadway. It was off Broadway.
Sure.
But I was acting every day, traveling the country. I was not paying rent. I wasn't putting gas in my car. I was saving up all my monies. And then I moved to LA, and what was so startling was not having that creative outlet all the time.
Yeah.
It was post-show blues times infinity. Do you have a better experience?
That's interesting. I don't know if I remember exactly. I do remember, I think there's something kind of uniquely LA. Everything in LA is like quite self-driven. New York has more institutions and theater is more institutionalized, where it like leads to like things and it's 8 shows a week. I don't know, so much of that is school-based and whatever. Coming out of that, you kind of have the pace built into you of I'm doing it every day, it's happening every day, and then dropping out into, I don't know if it's LA or the real world or whatever it is, but you do have that dip of like, oh, I'm going like weeks without anything unless I'm really chasing it or I'm hopping into a class or I'm doing something. It can be really tricky because it's hard coming from that pace of like every single day I'm being creative and hopping into the day-to-day of like no one's asking for you unless you're really getting after it. I think class is like the way to really help that, he says on the podcast. But it really is like to make you feel like you're not losing the groove, because it was like a couple months after coming back from Mormon that I hopped in here to kind of stay in the groove.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how did you hear about our studio?
It was either my agents at the time or I don't actually know, but it wasn't anything online. It was a homie or an agent or somebody that was like, this is a great place. And I think like still the thing I preach about this place is very practical, obviously good for people who need an acting education, but very practical for people who want to just like hit the ground running and don't need a bunch of like, let's spend 6 years doing Meisner and let's spend 10 years, though that has its value. But the thing I loved about being in this studio was like, okay, you're already a person that can do it. It's no longer a question of like, are you an actor? Are you good at doing this thing? It's like, how do we get you in there? How do we get you in the room and make it feel like even when you're not on set this week or this month or this 6 months, however long it's dry, year, whatever, how can you feel plugged in? And how can you be watching people who are working work and be like, oh, I feel like I'm understanding what's going on and the flavors that are getting cast of like the level that's getting cast, I can be around that and know that it's possible, but also it's happening. And like, just because you're not working that week doesn't mean you're not working, especially coming out of the Broadway grind, that tour grind too, because it's your whole life. It's like 24/7, you know, it like helps to have something like a weekly sort of like anchor.
Yeah, I love that. I always found like, okay, class ended that night, and then the next day, bam, you have a new assignment. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
great, I can print something off and be rehearsing already.
Yeah.
I can be memorizing, working on something. Also, in my training, I never had, like, I never looked at TV and film scripts. When I did, they were like film scripts from decades and decades ago. So just like looking at what's currently casting was so helpful for me.
Yes, that's my big beef in general. By the time you institutionalize the education of acting, it inherently, like, so many things have to go through so many processes. And by the time it's like a part of the curriculum, it's old usually.
Yeah.
So you are doing like a monologue from Taxi Driver that is like an amazing monologue, but like that's not useful to a 19-year-old who's trying to like be on an episode of Glee, you know?
We'll have to stop running that Taxi Driver monologue.
Yeah.
So was it easy to get an agent or manager right out of Book of Mormon?
Mormon, I stayed with my same people. So when I got Mormon, I got signed with an agency that was bi-coastal. And then when I did the show in LA at the Pantages, the LA office came to see the show. And then I was like, hey, I'm thinking of being in LA. Will you guys rep me out here? Because I didn't know that that wasn't guaranteed. I didn't know that. And like the New York team was like, yeah, we'll see if they'll. I was like, oh, I thought I was signed to the whole thing, but you're not unless they say you are. So then they said, yeah, for sure. And then kind of hit the ground running. I did crash a motorcycle right after Book of Mormon. So I had like 6 months of not doing anything. Yeah.
Oh, wow. A little like forced breath.
A little forced hiatus, we'll say.
So what was the biggest house you ever played to when doing Mormon?
Oh, probably Pantages. Pantages is big. I don't know the exact number, but like a Broadway theater, most of them are around 1,000. Not actually that huge. Like growing up, I was like, Broadway, it must be like stadium. It must be tens of thousands. And it's like 1,000, give or take. Like some playhouses are like 8, and some of the bigger theaters in New York are like 1,500. I think Pantages is more like 2,000, 2,500 or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is actually, in my opinion, kind of too big for a lot of shows because you want to be able to see what's going on. It's quite a big house. It works for Book of Mormon. It works for like Book of Mormon or like a Lion King or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's a big house.
It's a big house, man. Yeah.
That would probably be the biggest.
How did you transition from sort of playing to that big house to on-camera work?
That's a very good question. I think this studio was very helpful. Just being around it more, being around that kind of behavior more, seeing it in the room more. Like, I think what's useful is, I think this is why like a number one on a call sheet is so important to set the tone, because really everybody else is energy matching. So that I found to be the most useful was like, I know how to emote and I know how to hit a joke and I know how to do all of these things. Can I now energy match what's going on in the room? And I think that was like the most useful tool, even beyond, because sometimes the technical I get too in my head about of like, if I'm trying to play small, I just get squinty and I just, you know what I mean? I just do like bad CW acting, not the good kind that we've seen.
We love some CW.
Oh, there's good CW acting, but I do bad CW acting. If I'm trying to play small, it just looks like I'm trying to play small, as opposed to taking it off and just energy matching mostly. If I'm doing anything beyond that, it starts to get fuzzy, but it does take practice because you are coming from, particularly like Mormon, you're coming from this big arms wide, like huge smile show to like, I think it was probably why the first show I did for a while was like a network comedy on ABC, which like lends itself to that tendencies, but just like turned down a little bit.
Yeah. I think you energy matched, is it Allie or AJ?
Oh, AJ Mashaka?
Yeah, I feel like you matched her energy so gorgeously.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
So gorgeously. And she had, although she has a music career as well.
Yeah.
So I thought when I saw the two of you together interacting, it felt like you guys were of the same world.
Yeah.
So the ability that you just described, the necessity to sort of match what they're putting out, I thought you handled gorgeously.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. It was like, AJ makes it easy. That whole environment was easy and fun. It was just like good. Everybody was chill.
Yeah.
It was like a relatively, TV's always high stakes, but it was relatively low stakes.
Cool.
Like, we knew what we were making. It was like a fun 90s sitcom-y, we're all having fun.
Yeah.
So it was like good. And I was playing an idiot, so it didn't matter.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was that one of your first auditions?
I don't think so. There's, you know how it goes. There's been a billion.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for me to be like, which one was, I don't know when that came in the lineup, but I think it was like end of the year, whatever that year was. It would have been like end of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
I came back in 2017. So I had been auditioning or recovering from a motorcycle injury for 9 or 10 months at that point before anything popped. And then that one was just lucky because it was like one of the first few episodes of season 1. So they hadn't really established who their players were yet.
Yeah.
So it came in and just like didn't mess up. And they were like, oh, great. Okay, we know if we bring this guy in, he's not going to waste our time.
Cool.
That's like, I feel like that's one of the most valuable skills an actor can have is just
Truly.
Like, don't waste people's time.
Truly.
Literally, I joke with my wife, if I started a school of acting, it would just be called the Gabe Gibbs School of Memorization. Just memorize it. Just be off book. Because everything else is crazy. You're having to figure out where you're standing, and now Ellen Pompeo's right there, and that energy you're not ready for. So it's just like, be on time and know your lines, and it's astonishing how people are like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that the bare
Right.
Oh
Absolutely. I often think of auditions as they're not going, which is the best actor in all of LA. They're going like, who's going to get us out on time?
Yes.
Who's going to make our day easy?
Yes.
Because Ellen Pompeo has stuff to do. She has other places to be. She's contractually obligated to only refer maybe 3 days a week. Also executive producing other things, and she's a mom.
Yes.
So who's going to be able to just help us make our day?
Yes.
Just make our day.
She doesn't want to sit, because like the episode I shot of Grey's, on the second day of shooting, she had to be up at like 2:30 in the morning to be on Good Morning America East Coast time to then come shoot a full day. So yeah, you're totally right. She doesn't want to show up and have some gap-toothed goofy boy like not knowing his words all day long while she's like, my kids are at home and I'm here waiting for you to get through these lines that you got given 5 days ago. Like,
right.
It's like, truly it is. I feel like maybe it was you who said it when I was in studio here. Part of it too is like producers are watching dailies all day and then like turning and watching your tapes, and it's just another extension of like, do you fit what we already have going on?
Yes.
No, I'm not looking for anyone to blow my mind. Maybe if we're like early on in the process and we're doing like chemistry reads for this new whatever, but especially the like moving bus of a network show that you have to get on, it's like, can you be here on Monday and be ready?
Yep.
That's it. There's kind of something freeing about that, of just like, my job is to just not mess up. Like,
totally.
I don't have to blow anyone's mind.
Absolutely. Yes. Oh my gosh, I so agree with you. And I stand by that. Like if they're watching dailies all day long and they're like, great, now show us the auditions. They're going like, what fits in this world? But also when actors are like, but it's more than just not messing up. How do I book the thing? It's like, you're going to be the right fit for something and you're not going to be the right fit for another thing. And it doesn't matter how much that particular gig means to you, what it would mean to you. That is the right fit. That's my thought anyway.
And I'm sure you see it too in class a lot, where you see all kinds of different energies and all kinds of different people, and you're like, this is not a value judgment.
Totally.
None of this is value. It's all, do the puzzle pieces work? Now, of course, we're talking about people who actually have worked hard and have learned the lines and know what they're doing.
Yeah.
There are some people who are not even close.
Right, yeah.
But we're not talking about those people. It is such an interesting, weirdly, the bare minimum is the maximum. For real.
Yeah. I'm still fighting with incoming prospective students who are very much with the mindset of like, I want to keep it fresh, which means to them, I don't memorize. That's really hard.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They just want to,
so
they're still trying to find it, or like, why?
The thought is, I want something to surprise me in the middle of it. And what I really think is, if you're counting on you forgetting your line and then finally remembering it in the moment to be the most interesting thing about the audition, that's some work to do.
Yeah.
I think sometimes they don't trust themselves enough to make strong choices and imbue the text with enough of themselves. And they're like, hopefully I'll be so unaware of what my cue is that when I remember that's my cue, it'll be an authentic moment, which is going to be devastating when they get on set.
For sure.
But I also think it prohibits them from getting on set.
Agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's prep. I think it's like it has to be, you have no shot unless you're prepped. It's like if they're looking at 50 people for this thing, if you come in and you're searching, people watch it all day long. People watch auditions all day long. Directors are working. I just did a session in New York for this thing that I didn't get, but I was really happy that I was prepared. Because then the director was like, oh, okay, now we're working.
Yeah.
Now we're here in the room working.
Yeah.
Now we're not watching you search for what the dialogue is. Or if we're having 50 people in the room, there's going to be a bunch of them that are not even going to get looked at unless they're prepared.
Yeah.
And then from prepared, they go, okay, you want to get cut for like, you're the wrong height,
Sure.
or you're the wrong age, or you're the wrong whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Not because you left it to chance that maybe you'd find some dialogue magically in the room that you didn't totally have memorized.
Yeah.
I feel like actors make up these rules all the time about what gives them like good performance.
Totally.
And ultimately the pros, when I'm around like the pros, they always just know their words. They always just know their words because it's the energy match thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can't energy match if the energy's all up here. You know what I mean? That has to be gone for you to be able to do anything here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess that's like arriving back at acting is reacting and acting is listening. But if that's true, then you have to like get yourself there, which for me is like, I have to be prepared or I don't feel like I should even be in the room.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we're also very much talking about like auditioning. And if you are on set and you are not prepared, it's the worst, the absolute worst. It slows things up. If you don't make your day, the show gets penalized. The executive producer has to talk to the network and they have to ask for more money and they have to explain and your name will likely be brought up.
Yes.
And I don't want to sort of infuse fear or shame.
Yeah.
But you're right. The bare minimum is being completely prepared.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been in set settings where we're trying to figure something out and it's not necessarily the actor's fault. There's something wrong about the dialogue in general and we want to figure out this moment, and that feels very scary because you can feel like it's you. And then I've also been in settings where it's very obviously we're waiting for this guy to just get the line out.
Yeah.
Everyone in the room can feel, unfortunately, this person's not being asked back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And I think to your point though, like becoming a whole podcast about preparation, but it's
Dude, that's what
it's the game.
Yeah.
It's the game. I feel like people can sniff it before you're on set too.
Mm-hmm.
People can smell like, oh, they weren't prepared for this audition. So am I going to take the chance that maybe on the day they'll be ready? I think kind of to your point, people keeping it fresh to try to whatever is keeping them out of the set environment because people can smell it. They're like, I don't know what's going on here, but I need someone to be reliable.
Absolutely. That is what we do. You know what I mean? Because our studio takes a lot of actors who are good and actors who are trained and who love this and have committed their lives to it. And they're going, let's get that fucking healthcare.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get you on set. Let's get you collaborating with amazing people who will like change the course of your life because of their friendship and their artistic integrity. And let's fucking life. Let's do this. Let's do this. That really is what it's about.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think you guys do a great job of, I've said this to friends and some actors don't want to hear this, and maybe I'm paraphrasing in a way that doesn't make sense, but there's like kind of a right way to do it.
Uh-huh.
Like if you get a scene, they're like, particularly for existing shows, it is of course art, but if we're talking about Abbott Elementary right now, and you get a guest star for Abbott Elementary, there is technically a correct way to act that. And people, they're thinking about it in the way of like woo-woo art, as opposed to what you're saying, which is, this is a job. How do you get this job? If I'm applying for a job at any company, I want to fit the company culture.
Yeah.
I want to have read what their MO is and like know what the whole team is about so that I can slide in well, not come in and be like, you guys are so lucky that you found me to be a part of this today.
Yes.
It's like the same scene. If it's on Abbott Elementary, you're going to do it a certain way than if it's on, I don't know what, anything else, Succession.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a huge tone shift. But you know what I mean? Like, there is a right way, or at least a smaller lane than what you think you have from acting school.
100%. I say that all the time. A scene that we start with in our consultation and then in our boot camp is from NCIS. And there's so much that you can take straight off of the page. When I say, so what is this character? I'm like, well, he's a misunderstood. And they go go and do all the acting school stuff. Like I also love.
Yeah.
But
agreed.
But I feel like what we have to start with is what do you bring to this episode? Because these crime procedurals are a reliable murder mystery party formula. And we're going to a murder mystery party, and I actually haven't ever been to one.
Me either, but I'll love
Okay, great. We'll throw one.
Yeah.
They're going to let you know ahead of time, like you're going to be the butler who finds the body. Or you're going to be the elusive killer who no one suspects until the end.
Yes.
Or like you're going to be the guy who everyone thinks is the guy until it's revealed, nope, you were with the maid in the pantry.
Right.
Make it out. They're going to let you know that stuff. So when you go into an NCIS audition or any crime procedural, especially if it's for network TV, you can get a lot of information from just thinking about that.
Yes.
And then of course you bring your natural voice to it. If I'm playing the killer, I actually just played the killer on a TV show up in Vancouver a couple weeks ago, coming this February on NBC. When I am revealed to be the killer, it's got to be a shock and a surprise to the audience.
Yep.
So if you're like, well, I want to be sort of like in my Heath Ledger zone of like the Joker, and it's like, we don't know you're the killer until page 42, that's incorrect. And I don't think they would go, wow, incredible acting. We'll get him on set and we'll just completely explain how crime procedurals go and what network TV means.
Yes.
I think they want to see it in the audition. Not necessarily one right way to do it, but there are a lot of wrong ways to do it.
Yes. You're kind of showing, do you know the math of the story and like where we are? Where are we in the story?
Right.
And you play that rather than how can I blow your mind with how I'm delivering?
Right.
Can I communicate to you, I know what this is supposed to accomplish.
Right.
I know why you picked these sides.
Yeah.
Because you need to see me. It's probably normal, not revealed, the big reveal.
Right.
Those are probably the two sides.
Yes.
So you need to not go, let me blow people's minds. You need to go, let me show that I understand what this scene is doing in this episode.
Right. Absolutely.
They need to see the math.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's like, to your point, they're not going to bring you on and give you an education because they're drowning in 1,000 other things.
1,000 other things. And even if you're not acting opposite Ellen Pompeo, who was up at 2:30 for Good Morning America, the set that I was just on, NBC Universal is now allowing directors to only work for 14 hours door to door, including lunch. So she has 11 hours, 15 minutes to shoot.
Whoa.
She's definitely under a crunch. So there's no time to sort of get on set and have everything explained. There's still time for you to sort of maybe find some things from the time you get the audition, put it on tape 24 hours later, and then actually are filming it 5 days later. But having just like a big foundation of understanding script, story, tone, what is on TV, the difference between network and cable and streaming. It's just so helpful when you're in that grind of like get an audition, put it on tape, off to the next one, do the next thing. You have to have a foundation. So yeah.
I feel like I'm doing detective work when I'm getting a bunch of tapes. I'm going, okay, how quickly can we get to what is this? And can I execute? Yeah. Easily we get caught up in all the other hoopla.
I remember years ago, I auditioned for and then thankfully booked the Glass Menagerie.
Yeah.
But I had time, because it was theater. We were doing like short film, the Glass Menagerie.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine? And so I was like walking around downtown fucking limping. You know what I mean? I was like finding Laura. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't have time when there's like a 24-hour turnaround for your self-tape. Or 48 hours that they now give us. But you also have to sleep and you have other commitments.
Yes.
And you have relationships and you have animals and health and wellness and all that stuff. So it's a stressful situation. So what we can do is just prep ourselves with all of the work ahead of time. So that when we get it, it's like, oh, it's another Tuesday.
I think this is what I've come to understand in my small corner of the acting world as process. Like, what is your process? I think when people talk about what is your process, they think about like shaving your head and living on an island for 6 months to get ready for whatever. But like average working actor, your process is what we've just been describing. Which is just like, can you break it down as quick as you possibly can because you also have all your other commitments that you're describing? That's what your process is. That process is for like Chalamet. And even he probably so back to back on movies that he doesn't have time to go through a 9-month transformation.
Totally.
Like,
And I think because I had so glorified that stuff of like, oh my God. You know, in Last of the Mohicans, have you seen it by the way? Oh, so good.
I know.
Oh my gosh, so good. Well, that's okay. I'm excited for you. Happy for you. But there was a canoe that his character used, and Daniel lived on the land and built that canoe.
Whoa.
Yeah, like to get into
Whoa.
character.
Yeah.
And those stories are like so it's like an infusion in my
Yes.
like actor veins.
Yes.
Like give it to me, baby.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, he
Yes.
just does all this shit. And the reality is that like we don't have time for that. You know?
No, we don't have time for
Yeah.
that. There's like 2 actors a generation who get to do that, and the rest of us have to actually work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we have to like be there to be ready. And it's often, at least in the settings that I'm in, it's not my story. So I'm having to come in and have the mindset of how am I setting up the story that's happening,
Mm-hmm.
which is like people whose story it is get to build canoes.
Right.
The rest of us have to help push the canoe down the river. You know what I
That's
mean?
right. Or go, ooh, a canoe.
A canoe. Cool.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this canoe.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it gets cut.
Yeah, fully.
Totally.
Fully. I had a guy who went to Sandcrush Studios for a while.
Uh-huh.
The story he tells is his first episode he booked of TV out here in LA was an episode of The Mindy Project.
Ooh.
And he invited all his friends over to watch the episode air, and he was not in the episode.
Is it Kristyn?
Yes. You know the story?
No, I don't know the story, but I know you guys
Kristyn-
were together
yeah,
and he's
Kristyn
here.
invited
Yeah.
everybody over to his house. He tells the story. He invited all his homies over. He was like, my first episode of TV, let's go. Everyone was there, drinks and snacks. Episode starts, episode ends. Brutal.
It's a little bit of a rite of passage.
Brutal. It is. And you have to know, too, that unless you were on set and you were obviously biffing it, it's mostly just like people who they're not even thinking about you or your emotions about it. They're like, this no longer fits here because of something we're going to do 2 episodes from now or whatever.
Totally.
So it's got to go. Of course, if you invited like friends over to your house, that's tough. That's tough.
There's fresh snacks.
Yeah. Thanks for
Like
coming,
a
guys.
food. Yeah,
I swear I was on it.
totally.
My IMDb says I was on it, but
Not to talk too much about Daniel Day-Lewis
Yeah.
or myself,
Heard
but
of him.
my first film was There Will Be Blood.
Oh shit.
Only one of my scenes made it. And so for 2 years, I was like, for Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
So that was my very first experience. And I feel like, I was actually thinking about this today while I was on a walk. I might be grateful that it was my first experience.
Sure.
Would have loved that demo footage,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
But everything after that is just, it's all good. It's all gravy. You know what I mean? I learned how to tend to my wounds pretty early on because of that. I learned that nothing is guaranteed and you have to take, if you're going to be in this business, you have to take the bad with the good.
Mm-hmm.
There's no fighting it. It's actually like a deeper personal lesson of how to deal with disappointment and how to deal with the unknown and things like that. I feel better for it. Still would love that demo footage, baby. Come on. Deleted scenes.
Of course.
Throw me a bone.
I have like a 8-second sermon on it. Is my big thing helping with disappointment. I don't think I've invented this, but don't do dream stacking. Dream stacking is this thing that I find that I do, and I think a lot of actors do, is they go, if there's something that they're close to, or if they get an audition or whatever, they start to do, if I get this, then this. Oh, and the money will help with this. And then I'll meet that person and I'll do this and this will lead to this and this. So you're dream stacking so that when you don't get that job, you're then mourning all of these imaginary things as well. I find that the way to move through the disappointment and avoid it feeling heavier for me is to really monitor, like, am I dream stacking? I'm up for this guest star on this thing. Oh, cool. Okay, well then that'll be this amount of money coming in and we can get that thing on the car, or we can do this, or we can whatever. And I have to like really keep those away where it's just like, this is an opportunity. If it goes, great. If it doesn't, keep moving forward. But I found that I spent a lot of time mourning the loss of some boat I was going to buy, or like some, whatever it was that I had like attached to that thing. And I think that's like benefit of this job, is you get a lot of reps at that, like a lot of practice in how do we set ourselves up well for disappointment. Because it has to happen on the front end, not the back end. I feel like, because the back end, it's already too emotional.
Oh, totally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the actor's journey. You're going to spend a lot of time being pinned in like this sort of no man's land. And you have to learn how to deal with it all. Yeah.
This is my speech when I talk to the students at Emerson College where I went. They have an LA campus. So I go talk to students a lot. This is my speech about like day jobs and stuff. Is like, fill your days with something you enjoy and try to figure out a rhythm of life that you enjoy, because either you're pinned for something and you're spending it hoping that it happens and then it doesn't and then you wasted 5 days. Or you're pinned for something and you're doing this cool life and maybe it'll interrupt your cool life and you'll go do this thing.
Yeah.
Either way, the job, whether it goes or doesn't, you want those days that you spent with it in the back of your brain being fun days.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise it can be so miserable if you get... That was like the hard part of being in LA right out of college, was like every audition I had, I spent the next 2 weeks being like, wonder if they're going to call, checking my phone. I think that's just how it starts until you go through it a bunch of times and then you're like, oh, okay, they're not calling.
Yeah, right.
If they wanted to get me, they know how to find me. So let me go do my life. I don't need to like, you know, we're not in the era where we need to be by a payphone or whatever. It's like they can something you grasp.
Right.
So just go do your little life and it's fine. Yeah.
Oh, I'm suddenly grateful that we're like around and doing this in the era where you didn't have to like get to a payphone and like call your answering machine.
Yes, or wonder.
Yeah.
You
totally.
can go snowboarding while you're pinned. Whatever.
Yeah.
They'll find you.
They'll find you.
It's not that hard.
Yeah. You'll get service.
You'll get service.
Has creating your own show and being involved in that helped?
Yeah. I think making things on the internet and my live show and wherever has been the most useful thing I could have possibly done in my career, period.
Wow.
I think in the era where this is the biggest talent show in the world, everyone has the opportunity to be like, hey, look, I've got this thing. And to our point earlier about like producers and people watching dailies and then going to see who's auditioning, also on their lunch break, you have an opportunity as a creative person to figure out what it is that you want to be putting out there. And doing that has helped me so much. I have more acting opportunities now because of it. I think this was a thing I held on to for a long time where I was like, if I'm on the internet as a person, I won't be seen seriously as a actor. I don't think that's true. I think that was maybe true for a split second.
Sure.
Now it's not true. Now it's not true at all. Like Addison Rae gets movie offers. Do you know what I mean? She danced on TikTok and like, it's no longer true. This is my big like social media speech is like, it's been so useful to me. I think everyone has a different relationship to it, but it's been really helpful to me in the context of what we're talking about, which is the ups and downs of the actor world.
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit before the pod, but the ups and downs of the actor world, the ups and downs of the writer world. I'm writing a lot, and the ups and downs of the comedy world that I'm in now too. Like if you can have a bunch of different things that you're doing, digital, I have digital Gabe, I have comedy Gabe, I have actor Gabe, I have writer Gabe, and they all start to feed into each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they all can start to help. I think like the original question being making your own shows and doing your own things, has that been helpful? I think it's been helpful in every way. Because we were just saying I was pinned for something this week. It didn't go. And I kind of like forgot that I was pinned because I'm busy prepping for a tour or I'm like busy working on this other project I'm doing or whatever. That has been really helpful for that brain that like spends too much time wondering if it's going to happen or not.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, as someone who consumes your stuff online, it brings a lot of joy.
Oh,
to my life. Like earlier when Ray Lee was here and it was just Ray, Kristyn, and I showed them your Oops, I Did It Again to get a genuine belly laugh as you're sort of just scrolling through your phone.
Sure.
That means a lot to a person.
Sure.
Laughing.
Yep.
Literally laughing. Something you can share with other people.
Yeah.
That means a lot to the individual people who are laughing. So I'm grateful that it has impacted your career a lot, but it's also just like spreading so much joy into the world.
I'm thankful that it is. It's like, it just starts with you trying to make your friends laugh and putting something out. And it's just been crazy. I feel like if you can try to keep the North Star of can we make the homies laugh? And it does lead to people enjoying it. Thank you for watching those videos.
They're the best.
Thank you.
Oh my God, they're so good. Can you make the homies laugh?
Thank you.
We'll put the information for your shows and for your tour
please.
In the show notes for this episode and like on our Instagram as well. There's something that I want to end with.
Incredible. I'm already excited. I don't know what it is, but it feels it feels very inside the actor studio. I'm ready.
Okay, so I'm just ending with this segment. Just 10 questions. It originally came from a French series hosted by Bernard Pivot. And these are the questions that James Lipton asked every guest at the end of Inside the Actors Studio.
Incredible. Oh, I've always wanted to do this. I forget what they are, but I remember I used to have them memorized in college because I would watch every episode.
It's the best,
it's
right?
The best.
Yeah.
It's the best.
I'm bummed that we don't have them, but here we go.
Yeah, okay, I'm ready.
Gabe Gibbs.
Yeah.
What is your favorite word?
Lately, my favorite word has been ultimately, and it's got to be said like that, too.
Okay, great.
Ultimately, I find myself saying it a lot. I don't know why.
Awesome. It's good.
Ultimately.
It's good.
Yeah.
What is your least favorite word?
Ooh, I'm rolling my eyes at myself, but can't.
Question number 3.
That's very Dr. Huberman of me.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Seeing somebody do the thing that they are built for. Like, the Olympics just happened. I'm not sure when this will air, but the Olympics just happened. Every single person, you're like, it's like emotional. Watching like Collier live or someone like that, like people who are built to do the thing they're doing, it sort of transcends judgment, which is hard to do. I feel like as a creative person, my first lens, unfortunately, is always like, is this working or whatever?
Yeah.
Or what would I do or whatever? But to see someone dialed in is really fun. That gets me excited.
Yeah, I love that too. What turns you off?
Oh, bad musicals, serious musicals. I said this is my speech on everywhere I am. People being too serious. I guess theater in general, that's too serious.
Like heavy. Like you're singing, bro.
We're singing. This is my speech. This is my speech about musicals. We're singing, we're dancing.
You just did a jazz square.
Yeah.
Like, you just did Pas de Bourrée.
Come on.
Yeah, like
Come
that.
on.
Yeah.
We're in a theater. You're singing. You can't be serious.
Right.
We can't be serious. Yes, that does make me frustrated.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What is your favorite curse word?
Probably fuck. There's a version of it, though, that a buddy of mine used to say, what in the actual fuck? Which I really like.
That's good.
What in the actual fuck is going on?
I love it.
That's a good one.
What sound or noise do you love?
Aw.
Aw. Yeah.
I like that one.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Car crash.
Ooh. Hard agree.
Yeah, car crash.
Hard agree, man. Yeah.
Car crash.
Oh, the worst. Oh. Okay. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Oh, attempt is a great phrasing of this question. If I could be an athlete or crafts person, like a woodworker or a potter, I would try. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
What profession would you not like to do?
I don't think I could be an accountant. To be detail-oriented in that way fries my brain. That's not a surprise.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you went with a theater degree.
Yeah. They were the two options. I weighed them.
Yes.
And I went theater. Yeah. Yeah.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Your grandma's up here.
Bubba's right over there.
Yeah.
Awesome. You've inspired me so much, and I really love talking to you. This has fed me a ton, and I know it'll feed a lot of people who are listening to this. We also do transcriptions for the deaf and hard of hearing community. I think it'll inspire just a ton of people. Thanks for everything.
Thanks for having me.
Come back anytime and talk / maybe a guest class.
I would love.
We'll figure
I'd be happy
out
to.
later. I appreciate you so much.
Of course.
And I can't wait to see your show.
Yes,
Can't wait to
please.
see your show.
Oh my gosh. It'll be fun.
Thank you, Gabe.
Yeah. Thank you.